Chaco Canyon, New Mexico. In a remote desert region, 150 miles northwest of Albuquerque, lie the mysterious ruins of an ancient Pueblo people. Called the Anasazi, they thrived from 900 to 1100 AD.
This is the plaza of Pueblo Bonito. This is a representation of our place in the universe. You've got the worlds above, the worlds below, and this right here is our plane of our world. This is the exact place where time and space began for the ancestral Pueblans who inhabited this place hundreds and hundreds of years ago.
Scholars believe the Anasazi, or Ancient Ones, built their civilization with advanced knowledge of engineering, mathematics, and astronomy.
Somehow, some way, they built a city that is perfectly circular, that goes out in perfectly straight lines, that the structures of the city themselves actually predict the 5,200-year cycle of the moon and cycles of the sun, all in the geometry, all in the stone, if you will.
These are very elaborate constructions which required engineering skills beyond what the local folks had. It had to be done by an advanced civilization.
The Anasazi built Chaco Canyon, and they built it as part of a promise of a way of living, that they were to uphold the wishes of the Creator. And so Chaco Canyon is the delivery of the teachings. The teachings came from the Star People.
But how did these ancient people engineer such elaborate structures without modern machinery? And just who were the Star People who brought knowledge to the Anasazi? Ancient astronaut theorists believe the answers can be found by looking at the ancient rituals and myths of Chaco Canyon. According to local legends, the Anasazi believed in a multidimensional existence and practiced sacred rituals called crystal stargazing, ceremonies believed by some to enable time travel.
If you go up into the cliff dwellings of the Anasazi, there are elaborate star maps up in those caves. And that's where the crystal stargazing ceremonies took place, where they had the ability to traverse space and time.
What we're seeing within this area are people who basically say that they somehow emerged out of a different dimension onto this place. And they say that this for them is a place of emergence. They say that they interacted with mysterious creatures.
Did the Anasazi really believe in interdimensional time travel, as some ancient astronaut theorists believe? If so, might they have left behind tangible evidence of otherworldly contact?
I'm standing in front of the petroglyphs at Una Vida, and they're very amazing, as you can tell, with animal life. But there's also some very weird creatures standing there, humanoid figures, and one guy is holding what to me looks like a representation of a spiral galaxy. Native Americans were very aware of our place in the universe, that we were part of a giant spiral galaxy.
The spiral symbol, the one that you see on the walls, is a connection between the Anasazi and the extraterrestrials. They had contact, and they either came with them or they either left with them. We just don't know, but it's a bridge that existed between the Anasazi and the Star People.
4 very interesting humanoid petroglyphs have been found, one of which hovers above the other 3 humanoids with antennae sprouting out of its head. Some have suggested that this is a depiction of the ancient ant people that emerged to essentially jumpstart human civilization.
According to the legends of the Hopi, a Native American tribe believed to be the descendants of the Anasazi, the ant people saved them from the first destruction of the universe.
The ant people are described as very special cosmic visitors, maybe even star beings, extraterrestrials, who rescued them from this cataclysm by taking them underground. What's interesting about this is that in ancient Sumeria, they tell of beings called the Anunnaki, who also came from the stars. The Hopi word Anu means ant, and the word Naki means friend. Is it possible that the Anunnaki are the ant friends or ant people that the Hopi were describing?
Roswell, New Mexico, July 1947. Major Jesse Marcel, the head intelligence officer at Roswell Army Airfield, travels to Fort Worth, Texas, with the debris recovered from the Roswell crash site. He and Brigadier General Roger Ramey, head of the 8th Air Force, are scheduled to present their findings to the media.
Jesse Marcel flies to Fort Worth, the headquarters of the 8th Air Force, and he's set up to tell the whole world about the crash of a flying saucer at Roswell. Except Roger Ramey says to Jesse Marcel, could you just go in the map room for a second? I want to arrange some stuff out here.
The story from Jesse Marcel and from the photographer is that the real wreckage had been spirited away.
Hold up something. Get some Reynolds wrap off the fish in your freezer and hold it up and say, that's what you found, not a disc, which is exactly what they did. And the reporters basically just turned around, went home.
For UFO researchers, evidence that the actual wreckage from Roswell was indeed replaced with a weather balloon can be found within the notorious photograph, along with clues as to what was being hidden from the public.
When General Roger Ramey was posing for photographs with Jesse Marcel in the aftermath of all of this, you can see him very clearly holding a piece of paper.
General Ramey had a document in his hands, the so-called Ramey Memo. Modern forensic document analysis and photographic enhancement has enabled some researchers to zoom in on this and to clarify at least some portions of the text. What it tells us is astounding. Some of the phrases in the memo are victims of the wreck and disc which we will ship. So clearly, if the official story is true, well, this makes no sense. No, clearly something more than just a weather balloon was involved here, and the memo might just be the smoking gun.
As far as Roswell researchers are concerned, the memo points to a cover-up, with a downed UFO and its extraterrestrial crew being shipped from the base and locked away from the public eye. But if true, might there be fragments of evidence from the crash that were small enough to slip through the cracks?
The question is always, well, where is the evidence? Where is the evidence? Well, if the evidence has not yet been uncovered or dug out of the ground, that does not mean the evidence is not there.
Central New Mexico, October 19th, 2019. Investigative journalist Linda Moulton Howe has invited ancient astronaut theorist Georgios Tsoukalos to join her on a trip to a spot in the desert just outside Roswell, very near what is known as the skip site. According to eyewitnesses, one of the 3 UFOs seen in the sky in July 1947 first crashed to Earth near this location, then was propelled back into the air, skipping like a stone in a pond before finally coming to rest. Linda was contacted by geologist Frank Kimbler, who wants to show her mysterious metal fragments that he found here and search the area for more.
Linda, this is so exciting. I have not been here in a couple of years, so I'm really looking forward to meeting Frank.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that we've got a geologist who's helping, because the geologist looks at land and says if there is debris, there's going to be some kind of a drift with the land. And just from what I know, he has studied some areas meticulously.
Right.
Giorgio and Linda arrive at the skip site and meet Frank Kimbler, a local geologist and professor of earth science.
How are you?
to meet you.
Good
How
to
are
see
you?
you. All right.
Frank,
Linda,
it is-
finally.
Yes, you and I have been chasing these artifacts.
Chasing
from
the metals,
UFOs
looking for
so
the
many
looking for
years.
parts.
Yes.
Professor Kimbler has spent nearly a decade searching areas beneath the purported trajectory of the Roswell craft with infrared technology and metal detectors.
When an object crashes, they're going to scatter a variety of materials around. Knobs, control devices, plastic, wires, whatever. If it's coming apart, it's going to leave those pieces behind. And those are the kinds of pieces that I want to find and have found some of.
Since 2011, Professor Kimbler has uncovered more than a dozen metal fragments that he has subjected to scientific testing and found to be highly unique.
That's what we want to go out there and see where
Yeah, I
you've been
can't
getting
wait.
this.
Frank,
Yeah.
what's inside the case?
Oh, this is the magic right here. This is some of the material that I have found out here using a metal detector.
Interesting.
This stuff is very interesting. It's all twisted and mangled up. Something that you would expect to happen from a crash is to have metal that's compact and twisted.
When Professor Kimbler laid out his box of his pieces of metal, the first thing that struck me is these were tiny, tiny, tiny fragments. Could they possibly be from wreckage?
These pieces are small, which is things that the government would have missed. They wouldn't have been able to find it.
And here's my magic. Let's get a comparison here.
Oh,
This-
look at that. Look at that.
Look at, it's like a snowfield. After all these years, all of the pieces, they look absolutely pristine. That's the magnesium zinc side.
This has got layers to it. That's amazing. It's
But I bet you've never seen anything like
no. Being an earth scientist, being a geologist, I've seen lots of all kinds of materials that are out there. I have never, ever seen anything like this. This fragment that Linda is showing me, that stuff is absolutely amazing. I've never seen anything like it before in my life. And what's interesting about it is that it has some layers, some banding on it. And that banding is very similar to some of the banding that I found in photomicrographs of the material that I have from out here.
I think as
That is
Giorgio
awesome.
is holding this, he's holding something made by another intelligence from someplace we don't understand, and this is truly extraterrestrial.
Alamogordo, New Mexico. White Sands Proving Ground, July 16th, 1945. Early in the morning, a number of U.S. military officers and scientists gathered to watch a powerful new weapon being tested. Some believe the device will be a complete failure. Others think it might destroy the entire state of New Mexico. As a precaution, viewing stations are placed from 10 to 20 miles away from the test site. At precisely 5:29 and 45 seconds, the first atomic bomb is detonated.
3, 2, 1, fire!
The blast emits a fireball over 600 feet wide and produces an explosion equal to 20,000 tons of TNT. The mushroom cloud reaches over 7 miles in height, and the reverberations can be felt nearly 100 miles away. The world had a new weapon, one so terrifying it left even its creator, Dr. Robert Oppenheimer, shocked and shaken.
Few people laughed. Few people cried. Most people were silent.
For the first time in its history, the Earth had been assaulted by a man-made weapon of incredible power. But what if it had all happened before? What if an explosion of even greater force and destructiveness had long ago shaped the Earth's history?
Some people have suggested, on the basis of a number of lines of evidence, that there may have been atomic warfare, atomic bombs, atomic explosions in the very distant past.
Atomic warfare among ancient civilizations may sound like something out of a science fiction novel, but descriptions of similar deadly occurrences can be found in the very same text Dr. Oppenheimer quoted after the New Mexico atomic test.
I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
Part of an ancient Hindu scripture known as the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita was written sometime between the 5th and 2nd century BC. This massive 100,000-verse text contains stories about the ancient empire of Rama, which it is said existed over 12,000 years ago, or roughly 5,000 years before the earliest recorded civilization in Mesopotamia.
If you read the ancient Indian epics, they read like modern-day science fiction. Yet they're thousands of years old, with references not only of flying chariots and of these gods that had these incredible technological capabilities, but incredible weapons that they used in those epic battles.
They had what was called a Brahma weapon. There were many people that were singed and burned and melted by the Brahma weapon.
Ancient astronaut theorists believe the Brahma weapon was an early nuclear device because the descriptions of its deadly after effects are eerily similar to the effects of exposure to intense radiation. It is a theory largely discounted by conventional science.
There is no evidence that a nuclear bomb was described in the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita. It describes a battle. In battles, there are explosions, big explosions.
It's one thing about suggesting that, battles have explosions, but that's not really what we're looking at. You gotta look at the whole picture. One reference that we have, for example, speaks of these explosions that were brighter than 1,000 suns. And when these blasts occurred, the suns were twirling in the air. Trees went up in flames, and there was just this mass destruction. After those blasts, people who survive started to lose their hair and nails started to fall out. I mean, right there, we have a concise reference to radiation poisoning, nuclear fallout. And those texts are thousands of years old.
In July of 1947, an unidentified flying object crashed to Earth in the desert just outside Roswell, New Mexico. It is today the most famous UFO event on record, in part because it was the Army itself that reported the craft as a flying disc.
July 8th and 9th, the newspaper headlines: Army captures flying disc outside of Roswell. How did the newspaper get that story? Walter Haut. He was the official public information officer at the Roswell 509th, who gave the story to the newspaper.
But the military quickly walked back its story. Within days, the mysterious Roswell UFO was given an earthly origin, when the government claimed that the downed craft was merely a weather balloon.
They changed it and said it was a weather balloon and everything else. They said they took it to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio.
When you really think about this, why on earth would anyone send any kind of weather balloon to Wright Field for technical analysis? None of that makes any sense whatsoever, unless that material was much more exotic and much more scientifically interesting than just a mere balloon.
When you look at the whole Roswell incident, it seems to be a recovery that was very much a scrambled, ad hoc thing. And in fact, witnesses had been to the crash site before the military got there. So in the chaos of trying to clean up this crash site, you have to wonder that whether they would really get it all, where would this material actually go, and would they have left some of it behind just by accident?
In April 2011, the FBI released thousands of files as part of its online FBI vault, including a 1950 briefing to FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover regarding informant information about 3 flying saucers that were recovered in New Mexico. Many researchers believe this corroborates long-standing rumors that the Roswell incident involved not 1, but 3 crashed UFOs. And there were numerous other incidents reported during that time period in the area of Roswell and White Sands Proving Ground that remain mostly unknown.
You look at where the world today, when they think of UFO crash, they think of Roswell. Certainly, there have been crashes in New Mexico outside of Roswell. And we know that there were a lot of UFO crashes, going from the 47, 48, 49, and so forth.
How did you come into possession of these pieces?
Well, I'll never forget the day that Art Bell called me. And he said, Linda, I received a box with a letter, and there's some metal pieces in here. He said, I think they're aluminum, but I want you to start investigating. That would have been in 1996, that spring.
Art Bell was the founder and original host of the long-running paranormal-themed radio program Coast to Coast AM. In 1996, he and Linda began to receive shipments in the mail of small metallic fragments.
We started getting 2 shipments coming from a man who identified himself in a series of 5 typed letters. It said he was an Army sergeant, that his grandfather had died in 1974 and had left a box that had a diary and medals. And the Army sergeant said, I want you to have this and see what you can find out.
The letters detail how the grandfather extracted the metallic items from a wedge-shaped craft while working as a member of a recovery crew between Roswell and White Sands Proving Ground in 1948. Art Bell turned over these mysterious fragments and letters to Linda Moulton Howe for further study. In June of 1996, Linda commissioned university researchers to use a scanning electron microscope and a technique known as X-ray fluorescence spectrometry to analyze the samples. The analysis revealed alternating microscopic layers of the metals bismuth, magnesium, and zinc, only microns thick. A combination that baffles exotic metal experts.
I think we've got technology that we didn't make. A lot of people have come forward with bits and pieces of the same tale. We are presently analyzing metamaterials that we did not make, that's created in a way that is beyond our technology.